Well, hey everyone, welcome back to Stuff We Can Do in Excel. This is Richard, and hopefully you'll find this video helpful. If you like it, when you get to the end, please click the like button, and please consider subscribing to the channel. So what we're going to talk about today is some helpful features that you can find in Excel 365. Not everyone uses the desktop version, and these features I'm going to explain and describe may be in some of the newer versions of the desktop version of Excel. They may not be. I found some of them in my Excel 2019 that I have at home. I haven't looked in the Excel 2021, but I imagine some of them might be in there as well. But I know they aren't all in there. So I thought what I'd do is I'd just go through some of these. I'm only going to go through 8 in this video. There are certainly others out there that you might find useful, but these are 8 helpful features that I found that I want you to take a look at and maybe implement in your toolbox. So let's just take a look at the file. I've got a sample file here, and we're going to look at several things. First thing we're going to look at is version history. This is a new feature in Office 365. It's kind of nice. If you go up to File, and I am in Office 365 here, I go to File and I go down to Info. I've got a new option here, Version History. When I click on Version History, over here on the right, it's going to show me a couple versions. I've only got 2 versions of this file, but you can see you can have some, and you can look at an older version if you wish. So if I click on this older version, you're going to see that it's going to open it up for me, and with my different tabs. I got my profs, my offerings. I just created some just random tabs here. Eggs, nothing in the eggs. See, nothing in ham. But I've got my profs. Now, if I go back, let's go back to the document. You'll notice in my document I've got stuff. Actually, there's nothing there in the egg or the ham column, is there? But if we created some of that, we would see that. We might want to create, for example, we might say that there's different kinds of eggs: scrambled, fried, poached, and boiled. Okay. Might also want to create something in ham. Maybe there's different types here. There's country. There is boiled ham. There is sweet ham. Let's see, there's sugar cured ham. And there's sliced ham. I don't know. I'm just making it up as I go, right? And if I was to look at this column, if I was to get out of this and then go back and look at my file in a few minutes and look at this info version, it's going to give me a third. Now it doesn't have it's got a current version and a 48 minutes ago. The current version is the one we just did, and that's the version that has all these different information in the tabs. And I might want to actually save that. And it gives me an option to save save a copy of that. I could also go in and look at the previous version. If I wanted to look at the previous version and look at that, I'd go to the 49 minutes ago version. And of course, as we saw, that version doesn't have the egg and the ham stuff in it, right? But it's got this other, and I could save a copy, or I could restore what's currently up there to this version, but I don't want to do that. I'm going to go back to my just now, and I'll go back to the document. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the shortcuts button. Many of you may find out a lot of you like using your shortcuts for things, but you may forget some of the shortcuts. You may want to learn them. Well, the best way to do that is go up to the help button, and it's got an option here, keyboard shortcuts, and it's going to open up a window for you that shows you all the different keyboard shortcuts that you might want to use. Now, it's useful in the desktop version. The ribbon actually will show you these when you hover over one of the tasks in the ribbon. It'll actually show you what these are. But if you're looking for these in Office 365, here they are. The third thing I want to show you is bulk unhide. So we've got all these tabs down here. Let's go ahead. Well, first thing I want to show you is it's really easy to select a tab. So if you go down here to the this button, there's little 3 lines here, and click on that, you can now decide. Now this is really useful. You've got 20 or 30 or 60,000 tabs as you could possibly have, or columns. If you wanted to go to these different tabs on a particular worksheet, you could go directly to them, right? And you wouldn't have to search and scroll. I've got one spreadsheet got about 40, and I have to scroll to find the tab I want. This is a much easier way to go to my tab, a much easier navigation tool. But what if I've hidden a bunch of these tabs? And let's go ahead and just hide all these tabs and see what happens. When we hide these tabs, of course, they disappear, and all people see is the single tab. Now, I can unhide these. Now, typically, if I go to right-click on this and I click unhide, it's going to unhide all of them. But now when I click on it, it gives me a different tool in Office 365. Now it allows me to select which ones I want to unhide. So I don't have to unhide everything. I only unhide the stuff I want to unhide. So for instance, I can do this. I can say OK, and now it's giving me just the ones I wanted to unhide. If I wanted to unhide others, I'd simply go back, right-click anywhere, go to unhide, and it gives me additional items I could unhide if I wish. So now I've got them all back. So I can quickly hide and unhide all these things, but I get to select which ones I'm going to unhide. Let's look at another feature. Typically, if I wanted to make copy, now we'll notice in this column, notice there's the formulas right there. That's E1 times C1 and E2 times C. Now, typically, if I copy that, let's just right-click and copy it down to row 7, and I do a right-click and paste. Okay. Now, you'll notice my formulas are still there, right? They've just been moved. So let's get rid of those. There may be cases where what you want to do is you want to actually copy this, but you only want to copy the values. Now, typically what we do with this, and it's kind of a pain, right? Typically what we do with this, we will go here, we will right-click, we'll do a copy, and then we'll go down here, we'll do a right-click and do a paste special, paste values, right? That does it, but there's an easier, quicker way to do that. Okay, so we'll undo this now. So let's just get rid of those particular, just delete those rows. So let's say I now copy this, and I want to copy it, but I just want to copy the values. I'll right-click and copy. Then I'll go down to my row 7, and now what I hit is Control-Alt-V. And when I do that, Control-Shift-V, I'm sorry, Control-Shift-V, and it's going to copy it. And you notice now I've copied just the values. So it's a much easier way. It's a shortcut to copying those values. What if I want to assign a task? So let's say I want to go up here and I want to tell somebody to remind Dan Fessler that we've got a meeting. So I will right-click on that, and I will do Insert a Comment. There's a new feature in comments. I can say remind Dr. Fessler of the Friday meeting. Now, if I hit @ and let's just send it to myself, okay, it's going to ask, do I want to assign this to Richard? The answer is yes. And now I hit this button here, and it's going to assign this. And what's going to happen is I am going to get an email in my email box that tells me to go look at this, and it's going to give me a link to this file, so which is in OneDrive, right? So when Richard Rand, which is me in this case, gets this email, I can click on that, I can go to it, and I can see Dan Fessler, and then whatever. It may have been a task like, update Dan Fessler's age or start date, or update Dan Fessler's file. But when I go to this file, I do it, and then when I get done, I can go and the person who gets this can then click and say, okay, they can say, I'm done, all right, and then they can click down here, they click that it's completed. But if they don't want to do that, let's undo that. What they can do is they can go down here and type done, right, and then @ and whoever they want to send it to, and let's say they're sending it back to the sender. In this case, I'm sending it back to myself. But when I hit go, it's going to send a message, an email back to the original sender that says that I've now finished that task that you assigned to me. So it's really a nice tool, and I can click this up here, and that just tells me that I've completed it. But if I want to tell the other person that I've completed it, I send that email back to them, and it'll tell them that it's been completed. Okay, the next thing I want to show you is a quick menu select. So let's say we've got this data and we want to do some analysis on it. Let's just hypothetically say we want to go to the Analyze Data tool. Well, we got to go up here, we have to find it, but we don't necessarily have to now. We can simply click on any cell, right click, and it's not only going to give me a list of some options, but I can type what I want to do. So let's say I want to analyze data. I know that's the task. So now it brings it up. I just have to type it in. I hit analyze, and it's going to bring in my Analyze Data tool over here to the right. So that's a really helpful tool. If you want to, there's a task you know you want to do, you can't necessarily find it real easily up here. Maybe it's I want to go to here and I want to right click and I want to do text to columns. I know that's something I can do. So text to columns, let's see, text to columns, and it's having trouble finding it. Maybe I have to put in hyphens, let's see. No, it's having trouble finding, there it is, text to columns, it's right down there. So if I go to text, and let's see, to columns. Whoops. It will usually find that for me. It's not finding it right now for some reason. I'm not sure why. But that's a feature we could do. We could do merge and center, merge cells. We could do format, and it would allow me to go to the format menu to select something. I could do create table, and it would allow me to do a table format. So finding these things really easily, if you don't know where to go look for them in the menus, the drop-down menus, this feature is a really nice feature for you. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you get some tips out of this that'll make you a little more efficient when using Office 365. Hope you have a good day.